Chapter 6. Uraeus, From Mental Slavery to Mastership 3. The uraeus pineal gland is the third eye, good serpent and key to the unconscious mind. It is the key to a level of conscious awareness, vision, and understanding that becomes increasingly operative during the ascension of an individual from lower levels of mental slavery, unawareness or ignorance, undeveloped unconscious, to higher levels of mastership. A study of the uraeus pineal gland relationship clearly reveals highly advanced ancient and African scientific knowledge of pineal anatomy. It was understood that pineal anatomy was significantly influenced by sunlight, darkness, the unconscious, ascension, and blackness, melanin, or skin color. In the removal of the chains of mental slavery, it is essential that one knows the history of African scientific achievements. Science is knowledge. A slave has little knowledge and consequently is less in control of his or her own life, dominated by others and the immediate environment. Today's mental slave of African descent is afraid of science, fearful that he or she lacks the mind power to gain and utilize such knowledge. Today's mental slave of African descent still believes in the European, who promotes such lies as, European science is the most advanced the world has ever seen. The European logical style is best for scientific study, while the intuitive style and spiritual mind of the African is inferior or incapable of the same. Today's mental slave of African descent is ignorant of the vastness of the stolen legacy, unaware that the source of so-called Western science is African. Perhaps some of the fear Africans have in studying science is that science in European schools is usually super concentrated on the logical approach. The African student senses the emphasis on logic at the neglect of sentiment, a fact that is most troublesome in that the feeling-intuitive approach is the core of African essence. King, Lewis, Dixon, Nobles, 1976. African science emphasizes a holistic approach, a combination of feelings and logic, material and ideal, and the scientific and religious. It, in fact, actually gives material and proof of religious, spiritual concepts. The African scientist first feels intuitively, and then tempers it with what she knows logically, whereas the European first thinks logically, and then ignores her feelings. To break the barrier of mental slavery today, those of African descent must learn the truth of great ancient African scientific achievements, and thereby come to realize that, without question, they have the brain power to continue in the same vein. Importantly, the uraeus-pineal relationship reveals ancient African science to be as advanced, if not beyond today's Western science in the areas of anatomy, chemistry, physiology, psychology, sociology, education, astrophysics, astronomy, physics, and biology. As mentioned, ancient African science differs from today's Western science, in that the former placed a strong emphasis on the ideas of religion, spirituality, and psychology. For the African, science and religion were one just as mind and body were one. African science used not only logical yardsticks to measure scientific observations, but also emotional, intuitive, and spiritual ones. African science defined as best those relationships, mental conditions, between one's soul, self, and one's environment, which transformed both. During such personal transformations, the African scientists became more sensitive and better able to make hidden unconscious ideas conscious. So transformed, the African scientists experienced heaven on earth through an ascension to a higher level of consciousness, wherein they experienced frequent best emotions, spiritual highs, and best ideas, illumination, raised unconscious ideas. Together, the best emotions and best ideas enabled the transformed scientists to be in continuous harmony and rhythm with their individual souls and environment. The ancient African scientists achieved knowledge required for harmonic union with soul and environment through the opening of the pineal, which is the key to the transformative unconscious, the infinite cosmic computer. This biological computer of life was itself the essence of godhood in humans, infinite, omnipotent, omnipresent. An endless source of knowledge here all emerged, adhering to universal law and justice. Anatomically, the pineal is part of the brain. It is a structure found in the middle of the brain that forms part of the floor of the third ventricle. Chusid, 1967. Mess, 1975. Wertman, 1977. From a side view of the head, it is found approximately midway between the forehead and back of the head. From a front view of the head, The pineal appears as a structure in the middle of the forehead. It is clearly evident that Africans were fully aware of pineal anatomy, for they depicted the pineal as a serpent, uraeus, in the middle of the forehead, the anatomical site of the pineal gland. There are many African references to the uraeus forehead site. A few examples of this description were given in Uraeus Part 2. Another important reference is found in the Book of the Coming Forth by Day, Budge 1967. I am Horus, and I have come forth from the Eye of Horus, uraeus pineal gland. I am Uachet, who comes forth from horns. I am Horus, and I lie up and perch myself upon the forehead of Ra in the bows of his boat, which is heaven.